Hey everybody, Jon here, creator of Blinks. Welcome back to another one of our lunchtime specials. Today, I'm going to be breaking out our Blinks developer kits and sharing some developer insights and doing live coding. Next week, you can look forward to some new reveals of games from our developer forum. And we're going to continue to have new content every Tuesday and Thursday. So, hi Mike, I see you've already joined. If you've joined our live stream, of course say hello in the comments. We always have a really great crowd. And yeah, today I think I figured I'd take a specific topic in programming for Blinks and walk through how I use that technique. And if you're interested in making your own games for Blinks or adjusting some of the games or just curious about coding in general, I figured this is a great opportunity to learn how Blinks are programmed and also learn some good techniques. Let's see. So as I get started, let me just make sure I've got my camera set up. Here we go. I got my overhead. And if you've got Blinks or got Blinks on your way, you probably noticed got a little bit of a special holographic sticker. Kickstarter backers this time around are getting some cool new holographic stickers. Let's see. I just need to keep the screen on. Our technical troubleshooting before these. I've started to build in automation scripts, so I just press one button and my phone gets into the right mode. Let's see, except for turning off the screen. That you cannot automate on an iPhone. There we go. Okay, double checking that that works. Cool, all right. So now that we're all set up, I've got my brand new developer Blink right here in front of me. And then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to an Arduino view. So we can open up our tools. And there's last week, I believe, I shared something pretty exciting about our new developer kits. And then we've had more really neat things enter our forum, so I'll share those today as well. Lots of really good tools for developers just popping up every day in our forum. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead and put a link in case you're curious and not already part of it. Forum.move38.com. There we go. All right. So let me go ahead and open up Arduino. Great. And then recent. Let's see. Sketchbook. Here we go. Okay. Blinks. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So let me go ahead and share this screen. I'm going to switch over to Arduino mode. Cool. That works just as is. So last time I was working in widgets, here I'm going to create a new file. And let's go ahead and start a new one. So there we go. Takes a moment. Perfect. And I'm going to switch over the screen here. So new sketch. Perfect. All right, so we've got a nice new sketch. And what I'm going to work through today is I'm going to work through timers. And so let me show, I guess, an example of where a timer is used. So let me grab my berry blink. I feel like it's a nice, simple example of how you might want to use a timer. And so in Berry, we like to hint the next color at any given moment during the game. So the game piece is always showing its game color, and then every few seconds you get a hint as to what the next color is going to be. And so it's a really basic animation, but I think the effect is really quite nice. And so you can see here on screen, and I'll switch to the big scene view. So this is Barry, and you see every few seconds we get this sort of animation across each of them. And so let me go ahead and open up Barry to show what that looks like. So I'm going to go to File. There we go. So cancel, File, Sketchbook, my games, Barry. Okay. And then if I switch this over, perfect. Okay, so if we look at Barry, we'll notice at the top of the code, I've got the colors defined, but then the only other thing I really define here is this wait timer and face timer. And so what those are being used for is they're being used to set an animation and wait a specific amount of time. And so we can come back to this code as well, but I figured let's just try and use timers on our own and see how we can use them. So let's go ahead and switch back to my new sketch. We're going to create a timer in there. Okay. So this is timer demo. So timers are created like this, and we'll call this, let's do this an animation timer. And so this timer, the way we use it is we set it for a duration. And so I like to define my durations up top. And we'll say any duration. And we'll set that to, it's always in milliseconds. So let's go ahead and set that to 2 seconds or 2000 milliseconds. In our loop, let me bring this up a little bit. I think, there we go. So in our loop, we'll say animation timer, or if animation timer is expired. And you can think of, I actually really like this analogy. So you can think of a timer as like a kitchen timer. You can think of it like an egg timer. So when when you first get a timer, it's already expired. So you can think of like your kitchen egg timer. It's like it's always expired. It's always at 0 until you turn the knob and set it to a certain amount. And so our animation timer, if it's expired, we're going to want to set it to the animation duration, 2 seconds in this case. So what's going to happen here is we've got an animation timer. It's expired to start. We set it for a specific duration, but we're not visualizing anything here. So how about every time we set it, we should see something happen. So let's go ahead and set color, and we'll set the color to a certain brightness. How about let's do magenta, and we'll dim it based on the animation timer time remaining. So animation timer get remaining. So that's going to give us a value between 0 and 2000. That's larger than the number we can pass dim, so we're going to need to divide that by, let's see, 2000 divided by 6. Let's do 2000 divided by 8 would be, will keep us within our range. And then I think that's it. So this is our entire application. So here I have created a timer, set it for a duration, and I'm displaying how much time is left based on the brightness of the blink. So let's see what that looks like. I'm gonna press upload, and you can see the uploading process happen in Arduino, and then we'll see it here on the blink, and you can see it's already uploaded, and it's going to pass that program to all of my other blinks. And I'm going to switch over to the other scene view so you can see them all loading now. Let me see. I should get another screen so I can handle the YouTube comments at the same time. Hey Lee, awesome, cool. I see some familiar faces. Cool, so this is the sketch we just wrote. We set an animation timer for 2 seconds. We're showing the amount of time remaining by setting the brightness of the blink. And across our blinks, we already have kind of a neat effect. So this is pretty basic. It's 3 lines of code, but I think we can start to think about other ways in which we use timers and how they might be helpful. We're working on a bunch of new games right now and working with developers in our forum and helping with games. And one of the things that is really important for game feel is the timing and responsiveness. So blinks are very quick to respond. They're constantly updating their information 30 times a second on average. And but you don't always want to reveal the results of the thing that happened immediately, or you may want it to happen for multiple seconds after. So for example, right now these blinks are not set to do anything when they connect, but it's really nice to have an effect when something connects. So maybe that's actually kind of a nice next sketch we can make is I'll go ahead and open up the sketch here, and we'll go ahead and in this case let's go ahead and make an animation trigger for a period of time after a connection. So let's see. And there's one other direction I was going to take this. So I'll do this connection example, and then I'll share another really nice thing about these timers. So let's go ahead and if not is alone, and I'm using some shortcuts here. So we're going to do this. So if it is not alone, then we'll set the duration of the timer. And let's see, it won't reset. Oh, and this is kind of, yeah, this is an interesting hack of a way to do this, is if it's not alone, set the timer. But note, that's going to continue to fire all whenever we have other blinks attached. So I can use something else from our API, which would be if the status changed on the face. So I'm gonna go here and look at the value. What I want is, did value change on face? So let's go ahead and do that in our code. So we're going to say, instead of if is alone, we just want it to happen on the change. So we'll say, let's go ahead and look at all of our faces. So for each face, if is value received on face expired. That highlights orange to let me know I got that correct. Oh, and I need to pass it the face. So this means if it's expired, I want it if it's not expired. So if somebody's there, cool. So that's right when somebody's there. We want to know on the connection. So let's go ahead and, on that moment, I think if we want to know exactly the moment, we're going to have to keep track ourselves of what our previous state was. So let's go ahead and go bool has neighbor 6. That initializes to false. So has neighbor cool. And so has neighbor equals true. And else has neighbor f equals false. Okay. So let's go ahead and get rid of some of this. So here we're saying we're going to look at each of our neighbors. If the neighbor has not expired, we set the value to true. Otherwise, we set the value to false. So it says, oh, I don't have a neighbor. And before we do that, we're going to want to make a decision, because if has neighbor so if it doesn't have a neighbor before, then on that moment we want to set the animation timer here, and then set it to true. So if it's previously false, go ahead and set that animation timer, and then we need to visualize that animation one more time. So set color dim blue, just so we have a different experience. Animation timer dot set dot get remaining. Cool. And I think that's everything we need. Cool. So, oh, and remember to divide by 8 there. So in this case, I'm only going to set that timer, reset that timer, when I have a new connection. I believe that's what I'm saying here. So let's see if that works in this case. So I'm going to switch over our view so that we can watch the program. All right. And I think also on these programming streams, let me know if there are specific techniques that you're interested in seeing, and we'll try and we'll go ahead and plan those and message those ahead. I thought the timers is a fun one. It's one that I'm working on right now as we're making some sketches for the blank blinks that are going to ship out. So this sketch sets the timer for when it sees a new neighbor, and then the timer's never set again. So we get this nice animation only on connection. And you can see that it continues to bump it back up. And that was actually kind of interesting. I'd never, oftentimes we'll sketch something out and just kind of be curious as to, you know, what would this look or feel like And then I feel like game ideas start to emerge, where this kind of feels like I have to be keeping them alive in some way. But really it was just, as we all saw, those really few basic lines of code. And we're not doing anything special with color here, we're just using one color. Oh, this is kind of cool. If I drop the middle one in, we should have them all light up. So, okay, so that's using timers related to, just based on the connection. But the other thing I wanted to show with timer is oftentimes when making a game, you use timers to create animation sequences. And so, there are procedurally generated graphics, ones that behave differently every time they're called. And then there's kind of canned animations in game development. And I think that canned animations or timeline animations can be really helpful. A good example of that, actually, let me load one up, is, I'll find Pirates and Lasers. And so in Pirates and Lasers, every time the laser is fired, it doesn't create a unique animation for the laser. It uses an animation that you can come to expect and see. And we want it to be the same kind of theatrical explosion every time. So while that loads up, I'm going to also prepare a new page in Arduino. Also clear my throat. Okay. Oh, and I mentioned that I would talk briefly about one of the new features in our forum for the developer kit, so I'll share that as well. So here's Pirates and Lasers, and when you fire a laser in this game, you get to see a laser fades down, you get to see all the pieces of the ship explode, and then the ship comes back. And that animation works, that animation will work the same every time. And there's a really carefully crafted set of duration for that to feel good. We fine-tune those variables to make sure that the animation has the right duration, not too long so that the game feels slow, but not too quick to feel like you're missing out on this cool explosion moment. And so that's, these animation sequences is a really good use of timers. And so what I wanted to share here is how we might use a timer to move from one part of an animation sequence to the next. So let me go ahead and switch back over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and save that. I'm gonna create a new sketch. Let's see. Okay, so we've got a new sketch here. So let's go ahead and do this. So this one's going to be timer for animation sequence. And so in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to create a timer, and it's going to move through stages. And so we're going to go timer, okay, and then we're going to enumerate our our sequences. So let's go ahead and do one called Flash, one called Sparkle, Rainbow. Yeah, and actually let's start super simple. let's go ahead, flash, sparkle, rainbow. That seems, and then at the end of this, I'm going to do num sequences. So this enumerator works like this. This equals 0. This equals 1. Equals 2. Equals 3. And so I think this is kind of a nice trick with enumerations is if you put num whatever, like at the end of it, it equals the amount of items that you have before it. So it this value kind of gives me the count of that enumeration nicely. So let's go ahead in our loop here. Let's see. Oh no, looks like YouTube sometimes didn't start properly. Well, hopefully luckily this is all recorded, and a bunch of people joining in will be joining in later as well. So let's go ahead and go to loop. And so we're going to start to use this to move through animation sequences. So I'm going to create some functions. I'm going to call one display flash. Void display, let's see, what was it, sparkle? And then display rainbow. So we'll do this real simply. So for display rainbow, let's go ahead and do a let's go ahead and just on each face set the colors. Red, face 0. And so we're going to just set a new color on each face. So real simple rainbow here. Orange, yellow, green, blue, magenta. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cool. So that's display rainbow. For display sparkle, let's go ahead and do something where maybe random faces get random brightness or random colors. So for each face, set color on face, dim white, and we'll do that random. How about we have like 4 values of randomness, and then we do, so this way it keeps us, it's always going to be on, it's just going to be at different brightnesses and they pop at 4 levels. If we do like random 255, it's going to give us a lot of fine detail in between. I just want this to kind of sparkle. And that needs to go on face F. Okay, so that's our sparkle. And then display flash, let's steal that from our previous one. Let's go ahead and set the color based on the remaining time. And instead of animation timer, this is our sequence timer. So we're going to do the sequence timer, get remaining, and sure, we'll maybe shorten the sequence timer. We'll leave it. We'll leave it as is. Okay, and we'll do this. The flash can be, we'll leave the flash white. Okay, so now we need to switch through these different displays, and that's where our timer, or sequence timer, is going to come in handy. So in our loop, let's go ahead and if sequence timer is expired, sequence timer set, and we're going to set it for a specific duration. You know, I can type in 2000 here, and let's do that for the time being. So every time the sequence expires, it's going to reset, but we also want to keep track of which sequence we're in. So byte sequence index equals 0. So let's start on the first one, or we could say flash like that. Let's see if that compiles just fine. Yeah. So we can start in flash, and then we'll move to sparkle and then rainbow. So each time it expires, we're going to say seq index equals, whoops, I'm copying and pasting here just so I don't have to type that again. We're going to add 1, and we're going to make it loop around when it reaches the number of sequences. So this way it always stays within the number of sequences we have. Okay, so if it's expired, set it, great, and now we need to act on that. So switch, we're going to use a switch statement here, sequence index, let's see, and we're going to use each of these sequences as cases for our switch statement. So case flash display flash. Great. And if you don't know how to use a switch statement, this is a great opportunity to learn. Whoops. There we go. And they're typically formatted like this. So I'm going to create 2 more of these. The next one is called Sparkle. Sparkle. And then Rainbow. And Display Rainbow. Okay. And then usually switch statements have a default, just to catch in case none of those apply. And let's go ahead and set color red here in case we reach that default. Okay, so let's see what we've created. That compiles. I'm going to press upload, and you can see here, I hope this is sharing the right window. Yeah, there we go. So it uploaded. You can see our new developer tool automatically starts to upload that code right onto all of our blinks. And then I'm going to switch over to the scene so you can see them a little bit larger. All right. I'm going to check to see if there are any questions. No current questions. That's okay. All right. So, whoa. Cool. So we've created an animation sequence here where they show rainbow, they switch to a flash, and then they sparkle. And they just repeat, and it goes through that sequence over and over again. And you can imagine we did something quite similar, or the game designers did something quite similar with Pirates and Lasers. Every time the laser is fired. And, you know, this is, you'll see this when you buy LED lights. They'll usually be, or like on a hot dog cart in New York, the big LED screens will be running some sequence over and over again, or some demo. And there's a lot of fun you can have there, and it's kind of something nice to add add flavor to each of the events that can happen in the game. I think also something really nice about these animation sequences is you can use them and also randomize them. You don't have to have them. We have it linearly progressing through the sequence. But instead, we could be using them in a slightly different way where you step to different areas of the sequence. So that's just a little bit of information and an example of how you can use timers in your own code. This seemed to work out quite well for a live coding experiment. The last thing I want to share here is the new way to install the Blinks SDK. So a lot of the things we've been doing have been improving the ease of use to get into developing with Blinks. The new developer Blink is going to be a big part of that. But the one thing that you'll notice on our forum is instead of having to manually install the SDK in your file system, is you can now install it through the Arduino. Let's see. You can now install it through the Arduino interface directly from their preferences. So I think probably the best way to see that is to visit it on the forum. But it's really handy, it's really nice, and then you can install it directly through Arduino. And if that's working out for everybody, we'll make that the de facto way for people to install Blinks, is you don't need to download anything extra, you just download Arduino and then install the Blinks SDK through Arduino's board manager. So yeah, excited to share that update. I think that'll be a welcome way to get into the ecosystem for everybody with a new developer kit on the way. Before I sign off, I'm just going to check to see if there are any other questions. Cool. The stream looks like it's running just fine. Cool. Well, I think that's it for my live stream today. Next week, we're going to have on Tuesday, be sure to tune in. We've got a new guest joining us for sharing one of their games from our developer forum. And then Thursday, you guessed it, Jamie and I will be playing some more games, so you can enjoy us enjoying some games on the live stream as well. And in future streams, we're going to continue to use the YouTube live stream for some more new game reveals. And then we're also going to try out, as we did on Tuesday this week, to use our Instagram live stream feature and incorporate inviting you to join us so that we can try out new things with the community. So thanks so much for joining. Everybody, enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Be safe, wear your masks, and I look forward to seeing you all Tuesday. And keep your eyes posted for some specials that'll be popping up on Move38.com for Blinks and Blinks from our existing collection. So looking forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Mike. See y'all soon.